John Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weave from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after a truly historic outing by the Winnipeg Jets. Why don't you come in, have a seat in my brand new Toyota, and we'll go on the Jim Pattison Toyota on Region opening drive, because you're going to need to sit down to take this one in, folks. Winnipeg Jets are all alone in last place by every measure that you take a look at it. Also all alone in an unbelievable stat. And that would be, I don't know if you saw the beginning of the game, I laid it out. It's not a hypothetical anymore. It's not a what if. It's just happened. The Winnipeg Jets are the first team in NHL history, 100 plus years of the NHL history. They are the first President's Trophy winning team to end the year in which they won the President's Trophy in dead last in the NHL. Never mind by points, never mind its points percentage as well. I just took a look at the standings. The Winnipeg Jets are the last place team in the NHL. And I have to say, I'm kind of aghast is not the right word. I'm kind of blown away that it's happened, because I want to make something clear. Last place teams in the NHL are bad hockey teams. Like, typically they're dysfunctional. They quit on themselves. They have a lot of self-inflicted wounds. They're bad teams. You look at them and you say, oh my goodness, this is why this team is this bad. And I know that it's a little bit of a different year. I know that where the Jets sit in last place right now, what we're seeing is probably a little bit more of an example of the parity that we're seeing in the league now. The Winnipeg Jets would be in a position where they are last place in the NHL. A lot of times, a lot of years, you'll see last place teams are rocking, a points percentage in the 300s, not the 400s. If you take a look at the league, the majority of the league are over 500. So there's not a lot of 400 teams. But it's still, I find it fascinating, because you take a look at teams that are in last place. They're bad teams. Now, I'm not saying the Jets don't deserve to be where they are. One of the things that we're seeing right now with the Winnipeg Jets is they've played, I think, better hockey over the last little while, but they just aren't getting the results. And part of this has to do with the idea that the Winnipeg Jets' cakewalk of a schedule was their schedule at the beginning of the year. That was their time to make hay. They needed to build up even more of a cushion, of a padding than they had given themselves. I talked at the beginning of the year about them just kind of getting over, degree of difficulty games. It started out in them not being able to beat playoff teams. It started to extend in them not being able to beat anybody. I mean, 2 wins in the month of December, 2 wins. Like, you thought November was bad, 2 wins in the month of December. And if we just break down this game, I mean, there's reasons why. Okay, so the Jets start out slow after getting 6 fairly good periods together against the Minnesota Wild, the top 3 team in the NHL, the Edmonton Oilers, the leader in the Pacific Division. You come out and you kind of lay an egg in your first period. You get outskated, you get outshot 10-5. The opportunities end up in the back of your net. You can say whatever you want about your bounces, but here's the deal. The Winnipeg Jets come close in this one. They push towards the end. But I did not realize at the beginning of the year, when I said that I thought that the Winnipeg Jets would not be the comeback team that we had seen from them in the past. I was fairly confident it was going to happen. I mean, in theory, it should have happened. It's playing out that way, but they are not able to get themselves back into games. And so to be a team that does not have score to get you back into the game capabilities, how you can put yourself in a position where you are chasing game after game after game after game after game. I mean, you want to know how you end up in last place? That's how you do it. Because the fact of the matter is, whether the Jets are losing games in an embarrassing manner, and I don't think that there's been a ton of those. I think back on the Buffalo Sabres one, the first one on Monday Night Prime that they lost 5-1. That was an embarrassing loss in my eyes. Shortly after that, I think it was 6-2 loss to the Edmonton Oilers. I thought the Winnipeg Jets got embarrassed on that night. I'm telling you, the games that we cover on Sportsnet, the games that you're seeing on Prime, the games that you're seeing on TSN. I've worked with a lot of analysts. I talk with the analysts who come in to do Prime games. You heard them. You heard their analysis. I think someone on there said that the Jets were a playoff team. Now that is a stressed statement, if I've ever heard one that I don't know would hold up to the pressure test. But this is not typically what a last place team looks like, but this isn't even a find a way to lose team. I mean, the Detroit Red Wings, one of the things that we're seeing from them, they've got like a negative goal scoring ratio. They came into this game 23rd in the NHL in defense. They were 11th in scoring. So they're a team that it kind of belies their position in the standings, what their stats say about them. But I had a conversation with some of their players, talked to Patrick Kane, talked to Ben Sherrod, talked to their head coach about the idea that, they're a team that, finds ways to win games. When they lose, maybe they lose big. When they win, well, they lead the league in 1-goal game victories. That's how you end up with a negative goal differential, but get on the top of it. There's a mental fortitude that comes to that, but there's also an ability to score your way back into games. There's also a scrappiness. There's also being able to skate for the entirety of the game. And I thought one of the things that we saw here, and I'd love to talk about it with Ken when he does get here, I thought one of the things that we saw from the Jets was kind of picking up on where I left off on the last show. Yes, the Jets had played good against the Minnesota Wild. Yes, they had played good against the Edmonton Oilers. Back-to-back good games against good teams coming out of a 5-day Christmas break. My concern for the Winnipeg Jets was how long could they maintain that? What is what you saw from the Jets, even though it only resulted in 1 point in those previous 2 games? Was it fool's gold? Was it an aged Jets team that got some rest and got a little bit of vigor, a little bit of pep back in their step, which is going to go away quickly? And then that catches up with them in the first period, because the Winnipeg Jets' inability to play a 60-minute game is killing them. You want to know how they're losing? Well, clearly they can't score. You want to know how they're losing? Clearly they're not getting the goaltending that everyone thought that they would be getting. And the Connor Hellebuck has not been the magic bullet solution that everyone thought that he would be. So that's not helping. They're not getting depth scoring. But they're not playing full games. So they're spending parts of games looking like tonight, where they're probably the better team in the second period. And they were most definitely the better team in the third period. And it's not enough. It's a consistent way of coming out of a game and not winning, because the pattern is the same over and over and over again. I've talked about it. It's kind of like the razor's edge of games last season that fell in the winning direction versus the razor's edge of games that fall into the losing. And it's clearly at the point where the Winnipeg Jets, who were so consistent last year, even though a lot of those games were close, even though they kind of could have gone either way, whether a bounce went this way or that way, I had said this over and over, the Winnipeg Jets had a feeling of inevitability to them last year. I'm sure they've got a feeling of inevitability to you this year, in that even when they're not having a bad game, even when they look like they're starting to put their best foot forward, it's just not going to work out for them. One last thing I wanted to say, and I touched on it quickly there with the Prime folks saying that the Winnipeg Jets were a playoff team. It got me thinking, and I forget who said it in the last show, but by their count, they had 13 losses is all that was left for the Winnipeg Jets to lose if they, and then they're out of the playoffs, right? There's different ways of looking at this. The most obvious one is the one that I incorporated a couple of years back when the Winnipeg Jets missed the playoffs the last time around. And I'd said, hey, don't, just like last year, I told everyone, at some point in the season, fairly early on, everyone can stop fretting about it. The Winnipeg Jets are going to win the President's Trophy. Even, the year that Rick Bowness was here for the first time, when the Jets were plummeting and almost fell out of the playoffs after being first in the West, January 16th or something like that. And I told you, the numbers tell us the Winnipeg Jets are going to make the playoffs. Let's go down that road again, because I'm taking a look at the counts. And if you use last year's barometer, the 96 points it took to make the playoffs last year, and I concede right off the bat that it may be less this year. The the path that the bottom range teams in the West are on right now is probably maybe a little bit closer to 94 points to make the playoffs this year. Regardless, I'm going to operate off the idea of it being 96 points to make it to the playoffs. In order for the Winnipeg Jets to hit that number at this stage, they need to have a 705 points percentage the rest of the season. Okay? For those that numbers don't mean a lot to them, I'm going to tell you this right now. There's 2 teams in the league right now who have over a 700 points percentage. One of them is the Colorado Avalanche, who are absolutely stupid and outlandish this year at 855. And then the next closest is the Dallas Stars, who are at 731. After that, you get the Minnesota Wild, who have a 671 points percentage. You've got the Carolina Hurricanes, who have a 654 points percentage. That's as close as it gets. So put it this way, as good as the Minnesota Wild have been so far this year, folks, you need to be better than that if you're the Winnipeg Jets. From this point on, like, you need to snap to it. Not tomorrow when they play the Toronto Maple Leafs, not the weekend when they play the Ottawa Senators. The Winnipeg Jets right now need to suddenly become one of the 3 best teams in the NHL and maintain that for the rest of the season. And I ask you, do you think that's possible? Do you think what you've seen from this Winnipeg Jets team shows you a team that has the speed, that has the 60-minute effort, that has the scoring, that has the tools to come out on the right side of the results more than every 7 out of 10 games going forward? It's early. I'm calling it early, folks, but this is it. You can let it go right now. The Winnipeg Jets, if they are not planning on what to be doing as you are going to miss the playoffs, what you need to be doing to be putting this team in a better spot going forward next year, you're not doing your job, because this is it. The Winnipeg Jets do not have the roster to snap to it and be a 700 hockey club going forward. It's not there. It's over. The Winnipeg Jets are missing the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. There's no St. Louis Blues of a couple years back who also started the new year last place in the league and roared their way back into the playoffs and went on to win the Stanley Cup. Nothing has changed. My opinion on this team since it was roughly about around game 10 where I said it. This Winnipeg Jets team does not have the speed to execute the game plan it is trying to execute. Therefore, it does not have the ability to execute a game plan on a consistent basis. And without consistency, you can't become a consistent winner. Never mind a top level 700 points percentage plus winner. It's over for the Winnipeg Jets, folks. That's it. Ken may have more hope for you. I'm a realist, and I'm giving you the reality check here, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm giving it to you, of course, on the Jim Pattison Toyota on Region opening drive. And this month, the Toyota Get In and Go event is on at, it's the December. It's the Time to Toyota at Jim Pattison Toyota on Region. Lease the 2025 Tacoma 4x4 SR5 truck from just $116 weekly for 64 months at 6.59% with a $7,699 down and a $1,500 accessory credit. But hurry, the offer ends. Well, it ends in like 3 hours here, ladies and gentlemen. So visit Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent for a test drive today. I'm sure they're going to have some good deals for you coming up in the next month. All right, that's it, folks. Time for me to bring in the man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny.
You're muted, my man.
I don't know why that software has suddenly changed and started doing that. But hey, on a day where my opening, I think, is serious as a heart attack, I wanted to get a little bit serious. This Vittorio Rossi outfit that I've got going on here is pre-2018. I remember wearing this the year that the Winnipeg Jets, and I pulled it out of the back of the closet. I don't know how I forgot about it back there. It is to this day my favorite suit. It still looks like $1,000,000. The tie, the combo, the fit, everything about this suit is 1,000%. I just thought I should highlight the idea of, you go to Vittorio Rossi, and we've told you this before. People go there and they check the prices and they do these kind of things. I can guarantee going to Vittorio Rossi puts you in a situation where you go and you get something that will look good, it will look timeless, and it will last you forever and ever. So if you want something like Renny's fit right now, which I still think to this day, I can't outdo this suit. I will forever be chasing and trying to outdo this suit. I won't be able to do it, but that's the kind of quality you get if you head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they'll make you look timeless, and they'll give you something that you will look good in for years and years and years down the road. Ken, the Winnipeg Jets have been a good team for years. Yep. And years and years and years. Outside of 1 year, they fell below the playoff line. I'm shocked at this stage that a team that plays, you missed my opening, Ken.
Oh, I didn't miss all of it. I was in there.
The type of teams that are last place in the NHL are typically bad, dysfunctional teams. They give up on each other. They snipe at each other. They argue. Right. They have really bad habits. We don't see a lot of that from the Winnipeg Jets, but man, oh man, can you explain how they have turned losing into as consistent a venture as they have?
Well, I'm not sure I can completely get it all sorted out here in the next hour or so, but Happy New Year, my friend. Sorry I wasn't there with you at Little Caesars Arena, which continues to be, one of the best viewing experiences in the National Hockey League. Don't you think?
Can you hold on 1 second? Oh, yeah, it's phenomenal, Ken. Unbelievable building. I just wanted to point something out. Ken was not able to make it to the Detroit game. He's in Toronto tonight. You'll have him covering the game tomorrow, and then you'll see both he and I in Ottawa in a couple of days. But because Ken couldn't make it there was no post availability for the Winnipeg Jets as far as the room being opened up for traveling media. You've heard Mike McIntyre talk about it before. You've heard Ken talk about it before. This is a shameless plug for the Winnipeg Free Press, who other than Ken, I like to see my boy gainfully employed here, but I've got no connection to the Winnipeg Free Press. I don't work for them. I don't have a connection to them. I never get paid from them. I don't have any kind of thing going on here. But one of the reasons you have the coverage you have of the Winnipeg Jets is because the Winnipeg Free Press spends the money to send their people on the road to get the kind of stuff that is missing tonight. Ken, I got a note from Elliot Friedman. I got a note from my desk. I had a ton of people. I had Jeff Hamilton messaging me. Everyone was all kind of aghast that the Winnipeg Jets didn't have an avail after this. And I think some people were worried that the Winnipeg Jets were just saying, that's it, enough. We're not talking to the media here. This is because the Winnipeg Free Press, who consistently puts in its efforts and its investment into the Winnipeg Jets, and your access to the Winnipeg Jets weren't able to do it on this night. This is what it looks like when the Winnipeg Free Press isn't there to do it. Support the Winnipeg Free Press. Get a subscription because they are doing a ton of the heavy lifting out there that needs to be done if you want to get some Jets coverage out there. Sorry, Ken.
No, thanks for that. No, and also just for folks who don't know, I mean, when we're not there, when there's no independent media there, then Scott O'Neill was available on CJOB on the radio rights holder, and so was Josh Morrissey. But I mean, this is a pretty big day. I mean, would have been you guys at Sportsnet had Josh Morrissey on the pregame show to be able to discuss what it means for him to be an Olympian. So I'm going to have to wait for that story until tomorrow. So, but we're fortunate. We're there a lot more often than anyone else is. And I feel very privileged, and so does Mike, that we have an employer that believes in the importance of journalism and being there to ask the questions after a team loses a 7th consecutive game, despite a, frantic third period. And you want to have those quotes coming directly from the source rather than from other outlets. So anyways, In terms of the game itself, Sean, I mean, this is, it's not as simple as the Jets finding a new way to lose, but I mean, you're right. I mean, most of the time we've covered the league for a long time. And, in my 15 years covering the Jets, when you hear teams around the midway point that are in 30th place, 30th second place. And now, Sean, the Jets have lost the crutch. It previously had been well known by points percentage. They're not dead last. Well,
Right.
that's no longer there. The Jets are last in points and points percentage. 34 points, what is it? Four. Sorry.
They're 0.001 points percentage.
Sorry,
behind
0.447.
Vancouver and Chicago.
0.447. That's the lowest in the league. Now there's no ifs, ands, or buts here. So still quite a bit of runway, but in terms of where they need to go, they're in a tough spot. I mean, they're putting up a brave face and saying all the right things, but the numbers do not support the theory. I mean, outside of running the table and going on a couple of lengthy heaters. And I mean, we talked about this the other night, Sean. I mean, Buffalo had won. I didn't see what Buffalo did tonight, but they had won 9 in a row, and it wasn't enough to get them over the playoff line. So,
right.
Outside of winning, 5 in a row 3 different times, or winning 17 out of 20, I mean, Jets are looking at a very steep hill here, and there's no easy solutions here. But to your point about, looking into the future, I mean, we're going to spend some time discussing that for sure right now, but I mean, it's not an easy, it's not like there's 5 guys on the Moose that are, saying, hey, you can't afford not to call me up right now. So, we'll get into that in a second. But in terms of the game itself, Sean, I mean, this is another great example. You touched on it in the opening, and sorry, I was listening on my phone as I was trying to wrap up my story here that I'd sent in for the online version. So I did catch a good chunk of it, even though my face was not in the green room early enough. Sorry about that. But to your point, I mean, this isn't a team that's snippy. It's not a team of cliques. It's not a team that is, pointing the finger, blaming, oh man, why, either why can't we get a goal? Why can't we get a stop? Why can't we get a save? Why can't we get a power play goal? Why can't we get a penalty kill? We're not seeing any of that. And, this isn't a team that's quit. This is a team that, right down to the wire, there's Gustav Nyquist on the doorstep, bouncing puck. Gabe Velarde dishes it over. He beats John Gibson, but he can't beat the iron. Like, this is the way it's going for Gustav Nyquist. I mean, 28 games now without a goal, might be 29
2 posts tonight.
Yeah. So, and both clean shots that he thought he beat the goaltender on. And I mean, and the look skyward told you everything you need to know about the season that he's having, Sean, right? The other night, end-to-end rush, like almost the entire it's 175-foot rush, starting in the D zone, walking around one of the better, a Norris candidate in Quinn Hughes, and it's, nullified by an offside. And when you've gone, over a quarter of a season and dating back to the playoffs now, 35 to 40 games without scoring, it's tough right now to keep up, put on a brave face and, stay positive and all those things. But what you aren't seeing is a team that is, waving the white flag and saying that it's over for them. But at the same time, I mean, you got to find a way. I mean, Scott O'Neill was very vehement in his post game on CJOB. I mean, you can be happy with the effort and you can be happy with a lot of things, but those are things that should be automatics. You don't get extra credit for trying hard. It's a try hard league, Sean. So ultimately you got to produce, and hey, sometimes you're going to run into a hot goalie, but Sean, that's 2 goals in 2 games for the Jets, and never mind secondary scoring. There's not enough primary scoring right now for the Winnipeg Jets. So that's a big problem for them. I mean, they got a goal from Logan Stanley, his 7th of the year, which is an impressive number for, any defenseman, let alone a guy who, wasn't a guarantee to be in the Jets opening day lineup this year. He's got 7 goals, which is more than many of the forwards on the team that have been consistent double-digit goal scorers. So, kudos to him for doing that, but it also means a bunch of other guys need to get moving offensively. And, Sean, we talked about Jonathan Taves a lot. I mean, he's actually had 3 really good games coming out of the break, chips in another assist today. And, for a team looking for a line to get going, Taves' line actually was pretty good in the game today in terms of generating chances and being in the offensive zone and creating some opportunities. But again, that's a step for a team, but they need production from those guys as a whole. And, I think Vladislav Nemestikov, it's a great example. I mean, unfortunately for him, Moritz Seider stops skating and he takes a cross-checking penalty, and that gets scored on. The Jets immediately get scored on. When you've gone 26 games without a goal, you're trying to make something happen with just a regular, physical play. Player's got his back to you. He stops. You're expecting him to turn. You're trying to be hard on the puck, and it ends up in a power play. And there's Dylan Larkin ripping a shot home, and it's 1-0. And the Jets are looking up and saying, "Oh boy," they're not saying to themselves, "There they go again." But you have to think that it's part of the scenario. I mean, it'd be impossible not to think that right now, because when the Jets have fallen behind early, Sean, as you guys talked about in the broadcast, they haven't been very good. So when you're not very good coming back, it's difficult to come back, whether it's one goal or two. And hey, that's Alex 99 says it, that out of the 7 consecutive losses, 6 of them are by 1 goal, and the 7th included an empty netter. So it's essentially 7 consecutive games, and in those 7 losses, it's by a combined 8 goals. And Sean, you're also touching on it in the opening. People wondering about Detroit, because their goal differential is not good. The goal differential is, kind of middling, but they're winning the division right now. It's so interesting, right? I mean, John Gibson made a couple of important saves in the game. I thought John Gibson looked vulnerable in the game, Sean, didn't you? In the rink? He didn't look like a confident goalie in there.
Yeah, I mean,
both their guys are sub 900. I mean, they're not exactly exuding confidence to me.
Their first month was really bad. If you take a look at their numbers outside of October, it's actually not as bad as you think.
Okay.
But yes, from the beginning of the year, it doesn't look good. Both of them are, 800 goalies around what Comrie has been. So not that, and we could get into that as well. Why don't we get into that first? I'm going to get into this one quick here, and I'm going to handle the Pristine Roofing wake up call to Scott Arniel, who got tried to wake up the Winnipeg Jets by splitting up Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. We did a quick story on it just after they did it that we've been waiting to do for a long time, pretty much just in time for them to put the two of them back together. I'm not even sure at this stage we can say that they were really split up for the most part, but what did you take away from him getting to the point where that's kind of the Winnipeg Jets version of the nuclear option? Yeah, of course. I said the Pristine Roofing wake up call, which means, of course, it's time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing a wake up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy who went down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Give your home the Pristine Roofing and Siding wake up call. You will be glad you did. Yeah, Ken, I don't know if it had the intended effect, but what does it say to you that he finally went there, even if momentarily?
Yeah, and honestly, I think it had more to do with the Jets coming out of a penalty kill, that Perfetti got maybe a bump up shift there, but then a shift or two later, Kyle Connor kind of got on an extended. It looked like Morgan Barron went off early, but he definitely was out there for a shift with Adam Lowry, and lo and behold, there is Kyle Connor setting up Adam Lowry for a backhand chance. So again, I don't think this was a wake up to the team or to that line, but I mean, definitely when it wakes up everyone watching, because there aren't that many shifts when they're separated. So I mean, it definitely, I think it definitely snaps most people to attention when something like that happens, but yeah, and until they do it for an extended period of time, I don't think it's being used as such necessarily.
Yeah, it's funny. Again, I almost feel like we got suckered on the broadcast because we went to the story right away, and then they went away from it.
Well, you had to go to the story because it's so rare. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. Yes.
But I think it might have been more circumstantial than for a desired effect is sort of. Again, this is what I'm watching on my television. I mean, it's harder to get a feel when you're not in the building.
Well, it sure looks like it would have maybe led to more. I mean, that immediate opportunity that they get with Adam Lowry in that situation, I don't know why they didn't want to try a little bit more of that. Regardless, I guess you're right. It's kind of hard to talk about something that didn't have much of an impact outside of a couple shifts. So let's move on to something else.
Well, but maybe also too, Sean, I mean, now it's 2 games in a row where that line hasn't scored, even though they've had an abundance of opportunities. So, and also too, I mean, for the longest time, I don't think Mark Scheifele had a shot attempt until the third. So, I mean, it's also possible that it was meant for what you talked about.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pose a question to you that we haven't kind of looked at it from this angle before this, but I don't know what the ending of the game ended up being when it came to save percentage to Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck has won one game since he returned to the lineup.
895 today, 17 of 19, 895. Gibson was 24 of 25 for 960.
There you go. So no doubt does not win the Sean Reynolds Award, is having a hard time keeping his save percentage above 900, has won one game since he came back here. Now, the optimists who love to use the same lines over and over again when it comes to Connor Hellebuyck, well, he kept them in that game and all those different kinds of things. And I do have to say, boy, oh boy, the Winnipeg Jets and how easy and accessible they made the front of the net in that first period. I did think Connor Hellebuyck did a good job to keep the game from spiraling out of control. That said, gets beat on the first goal, and the second goal is one of those ones that he kind of redirects into his own net. The last person that goes off, yeah, for sure, it's Luke Schenn, but that puck was going in net regardless. This is one of those ones that people, if you want to say, well, he had no chance, so on and so forth. At what point do we start saying that when the Winnipeg Jets put themselves in these bad situations that they keep finding themselves out in, that they can't dig holes out of, that they couldn't hold the lead against the Minnesota Wild, that they, let the Edmonton Oilers get up a little bit away from them, that they let the Detroit Red Wings get a little bit away from them. At what point do we start talking about the reverse of what people always used to talk about when the Jets won games and said, well, Connor Hellebuyck's numbers may not have been great, but he made the timely save? At what point do we start suggesting Connor Hellebuyck has not been making the timely saves and has played a role in the Winnipeg Jets not winning hockey games?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think he has to share in the responsibility. I mean, the shots were only 10-5 in the first, but I mean, outside of the first 5 minutes with no stoppage time, Sean, I thought that the Jets were, skating in quicksand for a good chunk of the period. So I thought that actually Hellebuyck was pretty good for a good chunk of the period, but then he wasn't busy after that. And yeah, I mean, the goal from Appleton is I think it's a microcosm of the Jets season on a number of fronts. Dylan DeMello, it looked like he broke his stick trying to take a clapper on the dump in. Puck stays there. Red Wings get in transition, go down. Luke Schenn, who's going on a line change, but realizes at the last second that DeMello's puck does not get deep. He hustles back in the play, diving effort. He gets 3/4 of the puck. We often talk about the Hellebuyck computer. I think Hellebuyck thinks the puck is through, and he kind of he tracked the puck incredibly well, but because the puck was deflected and got over to Appleton a bit late, it kind of felt like he opened up his inside of the right pad for Appleton to bank it off of. So, like I said, there's a mistake in not getting it deep. There's an over pursuit by Hellebuyck. I mean, Schenn is doing everything that he can to stop the play, and the people who think it's Luke Schenn's fault, I mean, no, that puck's got to get deep. But again, Dylan DeMello wasn't expecting his stick to kind of explode on the play either. So, I mean, a lot of things happened on that play. But to your point, Sean, you guys ran a banner of it. I mean, the Hellebuyck is in the last 8 games now is sub 900, and the Jets can't afford Hellebuyck to be sub 900. Again, I said this on the last show. The Jets can't, expect Connor Hellebuyck to solve their goal scoring issues, the secondary scoring issues. He's not a sub 900 goaltender. So that would lead you to believe that he's got to be better. Again, I don't see goaltending as being a primary concern, but the Jets can't get back in it and they can't win if Connor Hellebuyck, again, I'm not saying he has to be 960 every night, but he can't be sub 900. Same as what we talked about before. Comrie couldn't be sub 900 in order for the Jets to be winning the games and not going 2-9-1. So it's also a fact that as the Jets have, only won 1 game in Hellebuyck's 8, that he has to elevate his game to a degree. It's not all on Hellebuyck, but of course he's part of the solution. And part of the solution would be posting more 920 or better, or even 915. So yeah, I mean, we can't tiptoe or tap dance around this. Sub 900 goaltending for a team that struggles to score goals is not going to cut it.
I'll put it this as simply as this: there's no difference right now in what was happening with the Winnipeg Jets when Eric Comrie was in net and what's happening with Connor Hellebuck. The Winnipeg Jets were playing worse hockey. Now, if some people want to say that, he's the magic fairy that gets the team to play and button down a little bit more, well, that's unprovable. So let's go down that road. But the results aren't really any different. The quality, or at least the save percentage of goaltending that we're getting between what it was when Eric Comrie was in net on average compared to what we're getting from Connor Hellebuck on average is not much in the way of being different. All the people out there, and there was a bunch of them in this podcast here, there was a bunch of analysts across the country who were saying, Connor Hellebuck, hey, you want to know what's wrong with the Winnipeg Jets? It's because Connor Hellebuck was out. This is not me blaming Connor Hellebuck, but this is me saying right now, the Connor Hellebuck that used to get Hellebuck wins has not showed up. And this to me is further proof of what I talked about last year. Everyone heard my take on Connor Hellebuck and how the year before that, when Laurent Brossoit was there was no difference in the numbers between Connor Hellebuck and Laurent Brossoit. The team was the same with Brossoit as it was with Connor Hellebuck, and they go on and they're the best defensive team in the league. Last year is the same thing. This to me is, in my mind, Ken, bulletproof proof for me that the Winnipeg Jets were their system, which I talked about for years as being their superpower. Everyone wanted to say it was Connor Hellebuck. Connor Hellebuck's success was as intrinsically linked to the Winnipeg Jets and the way they played defense as it was the other way around, more so. He was a bigger beneficiary of the Winnipeg Jets defensive system than the Winnipeg Jets were of his goaltending in the last number of years. And to me, this is proof, because now that their defensive system has broken down, it's not what it was. He's been getting exposed so far this season. Not saying he's not a great goaltender. I'm definitely not saying that this isn't his fault, but I do think that there was a lot of mystique and there was a lot of kind of Paul Bunyan-esque kind of, PR around Connor Hellebuck and him being given credit where sometimes I thought credit was due for the team or it was due to how the team played or the players around him, the battle that they showed. I think he got an inordinate amount of credit for all that was happening. And in a situation like where we see this right now, this is not me saying he bears the blame for this. This is me saying that this tells me that when the team dropped, so did he. When the team was high, so was he. He was as intrinsically linked. I said this last year, I go back. The first Vezina trophy that he won was a Connor Hellebuck Vezina trophy. He stole that. He was so unbelievably, he carried the team. The last couple of Vezinas, the Hart Trophy, he wins those because the Winnipeg Jets were great. That was always my beef with my reason why I wouldn't have gone in that direction when it came to the Hart Trophy. It was reliant on the team that got him to there, and I just think that this is proof of that happening and playing out right before our eyes. Okay, Ken, we should get to. Okay, we got to go to Scheifele first. We got to go to Scheifele, and not this game. We got to go to Scheifele being snubbed from Team Canada.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we talked briefly about at the end of the last show. It was tracking this way just in terms of, again, we're trying to read the tea leaves. And, again, we Team Canada did an excellent job of not providing any leaks on the roster. Doug Armstrong was pretty transparent in saying that they, came away with quite a bit of a, consensus after their early December meetings. And there were only essentially, 2 forward spots open, and Mark Scheifele was in consideration right on to the very end. But, the Jets, Team Canada and John Cooper and the management team went with guys that either have a little bit more of a defensive tilt to their game, can kill penalties, or, playing different roles, than going with someone who went into tonight's action as, tied for 4th among Canadians in points in the NHL. And, Mark Scheifele had 35 goals and 88 points in the calendar year. I mean, those are pretty incredible numbers. Not quite McDavid or McKinnon-esque numbers, but like not in another bracket. Like that's in the same bracket as those types of players at various points of their careers. Just for context purposes, Wyatt Johnston, who was also under consideration, went into the game with as many points as Scheifele, and he was left off the team as well. So, and Bedard had 44 compared to 45, and he's also not on the team. So it's not just an individual snub on Scheifele, but I mean, I would put it this way. Like I said at the end of the last show, if I were part of the management team, and obviously I'm not, and for good reason, he would be on the team. I mean, he couldn't have done anything more in the last 2 years, in terms of his skill set and what he brings to the table than what he has done. I think there's, I don't expect Mark to show it publicly. That's not the kind of person he is, but I think that there's a massive disappointment for Mark, and, rightfully so. I mean, this is something that, 2 of the years where he would have been on the team, probably 18 and 22, there were no NHLers at the Olympics. I mean, those were 2 years that he would have been under consideration. There were no Olympics. And again, Brad Marchand is proof that you can do it at 37. But Brad Marchand has been part of Hockey Canada dating back to the World Junior Hockey Championship. So this is apples to oranges scenario. It will be awfully difficult for Mark to be at the Olympics in 2030. That's not to say that it's impossible, but it's definitely,
let's just call it, Ken.
It's unlikely. I mean, that's what it is. So we know Doug Armstrong talked about it. I was on the conference call today, or the Zoom portion of the press conference, was able to ask about Josh Morrissey. But I mean, the thing that people are wondering, how long is the long list? I mean, Mark Scheifele was on call for Anthony Cirelli and Sidney Crosby at the Four Nations. So I have to expect that he is still under consideration as an injury replacement. But Doug also made it clear that it's not just Mark's the next man up no matter what, or Sam Bennett's the next man up no matter what. It's going to come down to what role needs to be replaced if someone is going to be injured and unavailable. So that leaves the intrigue for a little bit longer. But in the short term, Mark has to be disappointed. We're going to get into it after you're done your side of the story. I mean, what version of Mark Scheifele are we going to see coming out of this disappointment is a massive question for the Jets.
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to take a look and help people kind of understand this, because I know I saw a lot of things and people putting out the points and like, that was that, right? What kind of team do you want to build, right? So right off the bat, he's not up for the defenseman, okay? So we know that's happening. He's not up for the goalie, so he's got to compete against the forwards. So if you're Canada and you're taking a look at guys that you want to send there that are just pure straight up scorers, okay, you've got a couple absolute bangers, and you've got them in Celebrini now, who's young, who's got the edge over Mark Scheifele because he's young and he's going to be doing this for years. To Ken's point, this was the last go for Mark Scheifele. So one of the things that has to come into consideration is the idea of, if you see two guys as being the same, I'm going to take the guy who I need to get more experience for the next time he's at the Olympics and the next time he's at the Olympics. This was the last shot for Mark Scheifele. So if he was going to get on that team, he had to be, there in spite of his age. I know you brought up Marchand. Marchand's a guy who was brilliant in the playoffs last year, who's been, he's got Stanley Cup pedigree twice over. So
same number of points as Scheifele too this year at 37.
Exactly. So in that scenario, then you're looking at other guys like Nathan McKinnon. Scheifele is not ahead of Nathan McKinnon. Scheifele is not ahead of Connor McDavid. So you're starting to get a list of guys out there who, Connor McDavid is not maybe the best defender out there, but he defends by always having the puck, getting it down ice, and doing those kind of things. I'm not saying he's a bad defender, but he's not the guy you're going to put out there necessarily to shut somebody down, right? So for the role, there's only so many scorers roles. Now I get it. You take a look at it, and Mark Scheifele is fourth in scoring when it comes to Canadian players, right? But if you are looking for someone who's more along the lines of a pure scorer, are you going to put him, or are you going to put Connor Bedard? He's ahead of Bedard in points now, but only because Bedard's been injured. Again, Bedard's got the age thing on his side. Wyatt Johnston, who's got the same amount of points as Mark Scheifele, has the age thing going for him as well? Are you looking at those players like Nick Suzuki gets ahead of Mark Scheifele because it's pretty much a known fact around the league. He's a better 200-foot player than Mark Scheifele is. You can use him in more situations than you can use Mark Scheifele. Now, I want to be clear. I think that Mark Scheifele could have helped this team. And I think that there's things that he could have done that would have helped this team that I don't necessarily think Team Canada is seeing. I think Mark Scheifele is one of the best small area passers in the entirety of the NHL. And if you watch
100%.
the Oilers game the other night, guys like Connor McDavid, guys like Nathan McKinnon, they open up passing lanes with their speed. But what I noticed in the Four Nations is a team like the Americans, they did a really, really, really good job of shutting down that speed and shutting down those passing lanes. And what I thought was the Canadians' offense, it got by in that tournament, but I do think it got a little bit stagnant. I do think they needed different ways to score. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big believer in Tom Wilson going there because I think one of the things that the Canadians weren't able to do that the Americans were able to do a little bit more is just send a big body to the front of the net. And if nothing is working, just get pucks to the front of the net and let the chaos ensue. I'm surprised Sam Bennett didn't get on there. I honestly think, Ken, given the fact that he won the playoff MVP last year, given the fact he scored a huge goal to send that game to overtime for Four Nations, I'm blown away he's not there. I don't think it's a question that he's not the biggest snub on that team. No doubt about it. But I just think a guy like Wilson, you can see he's there because he's got an element that Scheifele doesn't have. What Scheifele had that I think would have helped, that I think Team Canada maybe doesn't see, is Scheifele's the kind of guy who's able to pass the puck through 3 different sets of skates and 2 different sticks right onto someone's stick and pop it into the back of the net. I thought he showed very well with that way back when he played with Team North America and he was on a line with Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. So I'm here to tell you, I actually do think Mark Scheifele would have brought an element to the offensive Team Canada that they could really use in tight games that I don't think they have that as well as he would lift that up. I guess I'm just saying, when I see everyone online being like, this is how many points he has, this is ridiculous. I saw someone put out there that quite simply, if Mark Scheifele was playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he would have been on that team. I don't buy that. I don't buy it, Ken. Mitch Marner, is another one of those guys where, are you going to take Scheifele or are you going to take Mitch Marner? Mitch Marner set up the game, the tournament winner at Four Nations. Had an overtime winner. Goal. So a guy who went out and did it for Team Canada last time around, you saw him do it, and he scores on average more than Mark Scheifele does. So again, if you're looking for just the high-end offense, I know a lot of people are upset. They just take a look and they say he's 4th in scoring by Canadians, and it's as simple as that for them. I don't think it's that simple. So what I'm saying is, what you think is simple and he should be on there, that's not as simple as putting him on that team. But what I do think is the hard answer of what he does that makes him really good, and that's the small area passing thing, I think may have been overlooked somewhat and would have been helpful on this team. I'm basically saying to you, all you out there who think Mark Scheifele could have helped Team Canada, I think he could have as well. That's what I'm saying on this. I'm not saying it quite simply because he's 4th in Canadian scoring. It's not as simple as that for me.
No, totally fair. And I mean, there's internal bias. John Cooper has, 3 of his players that he's won 2 Stanley Cups with. Some of those guys I think also won a Calder Cup with him in the minors. And Sean, here's the other part that, again, Braden Point is a great hockey player. He's not having a great year. Braden Point has half the production of Mark Scheifele this year. But Sean, he was named as one of the players early. I mean, Braden Point is a clutch performer, but he wouldn't be on the team if he hadn't been named to the team. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's whether it's he or Sam Bennett or Wyatt Johnston, he wouldn't be on the team. And again, I'm not slagging Braden Point. I'm a huge fan of the way he plays the game. But right now, he's not one of the 14 best Canadian forwards in the National Hockey League. I'm not just talking about points, but he's a two-way player that knows how to win and, has the backing of the coach and obviously the management team, because they named him as one of their 6 players. So that complicated matters a little bit further. But again, we know it was an incredibly difficult job for the coaching staff, for the management team, for everyone. But if the Jets don't score, or sorry, if Team Canada doesn't score enough, they've left themselves open by leaving some of these players off the team. Now, in terms of Anthony Cirelli, I get the complaints, but I also get why he's on the team. I mean, he's on the team to check. He's on the team to kill penalties. He's on the team because he's got, he's won a Calder Cup. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. He's won a Memorial Cup. He is a good face-off guy who's not been great this year. He's a good skater. He's not afraid of the big moment, and he has a long resume that includes playoff success. So I get it. I mean, Canada's made choices like this in the past. And again, he hasn't let John Cooper down. So why would he think he's going to let him down this time?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think he showed overly well at the Four Nations. I thought that he's the exact kind of guy they need based on what he's done in the playoffs in years past. He's a guy who's able to get into those tight areas where a guy like Mark Scheifele is able to get the pucks to and score goals. I wonder if there's a little bit of what I had said hurt Mark Scheifele was the idea that you don't know what he looks like if he's away from Kyle Connor. I think it's the same thing. Hey, the second duo that has spent the most time on the ice together since 2017 is Kucherov and Point. And I thought that without Kucherov feeding that puck into those spots, he wasn't quite the same player as what we saw in the past. The Cirelli thing too, I understand. I don't think of Cirelli on the same level as I think of like peak Jordan Staal or some of those players that Canada's had where it's like you put that guy out there and they are just not scoring. It is just not happening. I don't see him on that same level. What I do see him as is if Anthony Cirelli is not shutting his opposition down and, a goal or 2 squeaks past him, he's not going out and scoring to make it up. He's not going out and being part of the goals that push it in the other direction. I think you could have achieved that with more players like even, and I know this is going to be a rough one because he had a tough playoffs last year, but like a Wyatt Johnston type or something like that, like players who go out and take on tough assignments and can score as well. Hey, how he played in the playoffs last year, Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas is a guy, Ken, that I would have been okay seeing on that team in that position. Tough year for him as well. But if you're going and choosing guys based on what they've shown you in the past and you believe they can kind of turn things around, that's I would have almost rather seen a guy who can do both, who can shut down and score, because Cirelli is just not going to give you both. So I understand the argument. Regardless, we do have to move on. So if you have any final thoughts, you should get on them, Ken.
No, it's okay. And I mean, again, personally, I would have loved to have seen Matthew Schaefer chosen on the back end, but again, they chose, and Jacob Chychrun, to be frank. But
yeah,
I mean, again,
I keep hearing Chychrun doesn't defend. The Chychrun is a little bit Bouchard-esque in that they're worried about what he does in his own end. He's great up the front end.
Very good offensively.
Yeah, you're getting that from guys like Cale Makar. You're getting that from a guy like Josh Morrissey. You're getting the offense without the sacrifice on defense. The balance is just a little bit better there. So regardless,
and again, Schaefer will get his chance, and that's totally fine. I think he's an intriguing player. Again, I only saw him earlier in the year. We saw him early in the year, but again, he's going to have his chance down the road.
I think I heard that he may be one of the injury guys who goes there to be around the team and try and kind of teach him without necessarily giving him the on-ice experience, which is, regardless, I would have loved to have seen him there, Ken. I love it when they take the young guys. The one thing, though, is, boy, oh boy, he's doing amazing as it is right now as an 18-year-old in the NHL. He's passing that test, but it's just another level. And you have no idea whether he can play that level. You'd like to see some playoff acumen behind him before he was able to do that. Regardless, going back to it, I would have liked to seen more guys who can, both score and shut down, but you don't need to worry about getting shut down because you could score a great rate with Cambrian Credit Union. Getting a mortgage doesn't have to throw you off your game. While you focus on home sweet home, our friends at Team Cambrian Credit Union take care of the mortgage part with their low rates. Whether you're looking for a new home, renewing, or making the switch, Cambrian is your mortgage MVP. They can help make the next season of your mortgage path easier and help save you money. Now that is what we call a win. Head to cambrian.mb.ca/rates for more. And Ken, can you give Sweet Lou a shout out?
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact Lou Ferlin at Real LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including our podcast.
Okay, I wanted to bring up a comment here, and it was basically along the ideas of, I wanted to introduce the idea. Paul, our good man, Paulie at CJOB, who calls the games, he did a really good rant on CJOB today, where he basically said, in his opinion, Jets needed to walk away with about 5 out of 6 points on this road trip. And he thought if that didn't happen, the Winnipeg Jets were going to be forced into the idea of retooling, of moving guys along, bringing up some guys from the farm. One of the comments, and I'll find it here, is along the lines of that to help me spark this conversation in my head here. But Ken, I just want you to tackle the idea of whether or not you think the Jets would be getting to a place where they were actually going to take some kind of action in deconstructing a roster that they thought was going to compete for a Stanley Cup this year.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a big turn of events if that is the case. It depends on what is out there. Again, I don't ever see the Jets going to scorched earth rebuild, but I think it's been apparent that the team got a little bit too experienced too fast, and some of the regression that's happened with, and again, it's not only players in their 30s. I get it. Cole Perfetti has had regression this season as well, despite the assist he chipped in today. But I do think that they need an infusion of speed, and to some, not just to some degree, they need some youth as well. I mean, and that's, you don't get youth by status quo right now, being the oldest team in the NHL, being nearly a cap, close to a cap ceiling team, and being in last place is not a great formula for sustained success. So, I mean, I could see them getting to the point where they considered moving some guys out. Now, how deep and would those cuts be? And again, I don't mean cuts in terms of, football and cuts themselves, but what I mean is, how deep into the roster are you considering moving? Are you moving just pending UFAs who you don't think you could bring back? Are you sending out guys who maybe have 1 year left on their deals? Are you looking at something else, pending RFAs, whatever else? I'm not 100% sure how deep they're going to go, but again, I'm not disputing the fact that they could look at that after this. I mean, they're almost at the midway point of the season, so again, I do think that we're going to see a Walker Duehr at some point here in the next little while. He's had an excellent AHL season. I'm not suggesting Walker Duehr immediately turns the Jets season around, but when you bring in a guy as an AHL free agent, as a depth piece who you expect to use at some point, you want to find out if he's part of the future. So I think that he's someone that we're going to see. Some of those younger players, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, Danny Jolkin, Sean, is a guy who had an outstanding Young Stars tournament. He had a strong training camp with the Jets. Danny Jolkin, can he be the next Jansen Harkins? Can he be a guy that goes from, one training camp, he's mostly off the radar, to getting a shot to see if maybe he can give you NHL minutes for a team that's looking for more center depth? It's a possibility. And, the biggest one for me is Elias Solomonson. We talked about it wasn't as easy as people thought it was going to be. Some people thought it would be for him, but I think that he needs to play more. And the sooner that he gets another, 20 to 40 games under his belt, probably the better for his long-term development. This is a guy who's going to be, a top 4 defenseman, as early as next season. So, whether that means having to move a guy out via trade or waivers, I mean, that would be, I think that could be the first of several dominoes that happens. But again, we're also curious to see if there could be a trade of some kind. But I think it's more likely for the Jets to be sending players out to adding draft capital than it would be to sending draft picks out to get, an experienced player, though, unless that player has team control and is someone who's been on the radar for them before, which is something we've referenced regularly.
I wanted to bring this one up. I thought this one could be the Flame and Comfort hot take, the good kind on this one. Jets number one says the Jets still have a good core. They need to retool and hopefully get a franchise-changing top draft pick and add some youth and speed. I guess easier said than done. Easier said than done is the part of this. This is exactly what you need to do. And people keep saying, okay, let's just tear it down and let's do it. What does that look like? And I'm going to get to what that looks like on the other side of this after handing out the Flame and Comfort hot take award. That, of course, is your hot take brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort has moved to 1465 St. James Street. You'll find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside, folks. You can visit Flame and Comfort, and they will take care of it for you. Okay, here's why this is tough. Okay, and Ken, you and I talked a little bit about this before. If you're going to tear down here, one, the kids on the farm aren't exactly shooting the lights out right now. It hasn't gone
or need more time.
Well. Yeah. What it looks like is a whole bunch of those guys are at the stage where they could use more time down there. They're not shooting the light. So yeah, you brought up some good examples of some people who could come up and have some opportunities. But if you're tearing down, the question becomes who has value that is worth tearing down for? Or are you just like cleaning out everything outside of like, so who are your untouchables? Because right now, you know that your top line are your untouchables. Then you've got Lowry, you just signed him. So he's an untouchable. Perfetti, they would probably move him for something like a 1-for-1 type move, but you get there. But other than that, when you get to the guys below that, Jonathan Toews, even if you could move him, I think he's got no move, right, Ken? Even if you could move him, what are you getting back for that player? If you're moving Nyquist, what are you getting back for a player that is yet to score so far this year and that has been in and out of the lineup? What are you getting? So are you moving guys just to move them and clear up space, or are you moving guys to actually get something back? So here's the tricky part. If you're going to try and move guys and move them to try and actually get something back, you're probably getting into the Niederreiters of the world, right? Maybe the Nemesnikovs. I don't know how much value he has the way that he's been playing either. But if you're moving these kind of guys, what you're doing is, so let's just say the Jets start dealing and they move out Niederreiter and they move out Nemesnikov, and then they start bringing guys up from the farm. Well, by the end of this year, do you think Pearson is in their long-term plans? Probably not. So consider him gone for next year. Do you think Jonathan Toews is going to be doing this again with the Winnipeg Jets? Well, if they tear down and just basically go to tank for Gavin McKenna, no, he's not coming back for that. And neither is Nyquist. And, Koepke, maybe that's a guy that you keep around, but you're starting to look, if move the guys that you can get for value and the guys that you're going to lose next year, you're talking about gutting half of your roster up front. The not easy part is the most important part of that, because what that means is look how hard it was for the Winnipeg Jets to go and replace the guys that they lost this summer, the Mason Appletons, the Brandon Tanevs and players like that. It's not easy to do it. Players aren't going to unrestricted free agency. So the market is thin as it is already. The competition is higher than it's ever been. And there aren't a lot of players out there. It's not easy to rebuild through unrestricted free agency. And guess what, folks? The Winnipeg Jets are not an easy place to get people to come to. So you got half your lineup. That I think you do that, you're putting yourself in a situation where you're basically handing the reins to your minor league team, bringing guys up. What that looks like, you start getting into worries of rushing players. Let's say best case scenario, the Jets do exactly what I just said, and they get Gavin McKenna. And Gavin McKenna comes up, and I think Gavin McKenna is going to be a good first-year NHL player. And he comes up, and you bring him up at 18, where you risk spoiling a guy like that. You only bring him up if you think he can handle it. Maybe he can, based on what happened at the NCAA this year against older players. It's not a guaranteed kind of thing, like you saw with Connor Bedard, like you saw with Macklin Celebrini, because he's struggled with the age thing as it's gone up. So maybe you only get him at 19. Regardless, I think he is a good, solid start to building a second line for you. But you still are trying to fill 6 spots or something like that. And what it means to me, Ken, is in order to fill those 6 spots, if you start making the moves that people are talking about making, it means it's 2-3 years of trying to add guys, of trying to maybe draft well to get a guy here or there, of trying to get a good pickup here and there of a guy who's like maybe, a team is trying to dump a contract or something like that. You get that here. I think it's 2 to 3 years away, and 2 to 3 years from now, Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck are turning 35, 36 years old. You cannot count on those players being at the top of their game by that time, which means a tear down now means in a team where the window is not open for that much longer, you may be wasting a good chunk of that window. So this is not easy. The Winnipeg Jets are in a dilly of a pickle here in this situation. It's going to take some time to fix it, and it's going to take some creativity, and that creativity may require them taking a different look at the core that they have, moving players in, moving players out, maybe finding some young up and coming guys for guys who can help teams right now. It is not as easy as keep your good guys, get rid of your bad guys. In order to fix this problem by tearing things down, you're probably losing a decent chunk of your good guys to try and bring guys in to help the other good guys that remain behind and see if you could build from then, and just being okay with the idea that you're going to have to let youth play out and the mistakes that come with youth. And quite often the mistakes that come with youth, especially if you go full youth movement, mean this may, if the Jets don't make the playoffs this year, and I've told you already, the numbers tell you that they won't, they may not make it next year, and they may not make it the year after that if you're talking about the plan that you're going into right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy thing, and we've talked about this a long time, and, Buffalo Sabres, kudos to them for the run they're on, but they haven't made the playoffs since the Jets have been back in the league, and they've had several chances at, spinning over a full rebuild with, that involved tanking and numerous number one overall picks. So the trouble or the challenge is not the teardown part. The challenge is the building around it at the right pace and trying to line up your windows with guys that are veterans and experienced and still, high-end players versus guys who are, either at the end of the line or not ready to be in prime time quite yet. So, yeah, I mean, Gavin McKenna, let's just use him as an example. Say the Jets get a top 3 pick, whether it's, Stenberg, Verhoff, those I think are guys that can all jump into the lineup again. We'll spend ample time getting into the draft and everything else, but unless the Jets can entice someone in free agency that wants to play on the second line with Gavin McKenna, I mean, that would be a big way to, a top 3 pick plus a, whether it's a free agent signing or a trade, if you can get a, mid-20s kind of guy that can be an impactful player, or you're buying low on someone like Jake DeBrusk, who was a healthy scratch earlier in the year, you can get bigger and faster in a quicker amount of time. But it's not a slam dunk. Like, we've talked about this. I mean, the Jets have not been a marquee free agency area, destination, but, maybe bringing in a player like that helps. But for every, people saying Macklin Celebrini, well, it's his second year and he's an MVP candidate. Well, that's true. Yeah, but the
generation player.
Yes. And also they'd also already had a bunch of top 5 picks before that already,
right,
or top 10 picks.
Right.
So, it's just timing is everything. It hasn't been easy for the Blackhawks to build around Bedard, and they've added a bunch of first round picks too. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. It's not as easy as saying the Jets get a top 3 pick and they're automatically still a contender. But I also think it would enhance their chances of being the best chance to extend their window is by getting a top 3 to 5 pick. Those chances go up exponentially if it's a first overall pick. But there's only one first overall pick. And that's no guarantee of getting. I mean,
of course, yeah, lottery and all that. Here, I just have to address this because this is something I hear over and over again, and this is said in such a simplistic manner, like this is the easiest thing to do, like it's paint by numbers GMing, where Kelsey Eliason says we have youth and speed sitting on the Moose. Bottom 6 can be transformed tomorrow to a hard forecheck. This is complete and utter BS. It is hard. It is hard at the NHL level to be effective forecheckers. They're tough to get a hold of. Mason Appleton was one of them. Talked to Todd McClellan today about how he's transformed that team by doing that, the buy-in that you have to be able to check like that, the smarts that you have to have, the angles you need to have. Josh Morrissey said he spent an entire summer working on his angles, and it turned him around as a player. He had to spend a lot of money to go get trained how to do that. This idea that people are young and fast and they just go out and they're automatically good forecheckers, this is BS. This is like so shut your brain off. Someone described something as a no-brainer to me the other day. This is a no-brainer, as in no one is using their brain to think that, like, if it was this easy, every team in the NHL would just go and plug a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds in their lineup and say, go out and forecheck, and they would be ferocious. It is not that easy. Good players who forecheck well are smart, not just fast. They've got good angles, not just fast. They've got good work ethic, not just fast. They've got good motors, not just fast. Those are a whole bunch of tools required, and it's far more complicated than simply saying we have a bunch of speed sitting on the moose. They can be transformed to a hard forecheck tomorrow. It is nowhere near as easy as Kelsey is trying to make this sound here in this situation. Regardless, we're taking on the Moose. We're taking on the Jets. We're covering this all around, just like Myers Drugs covers all around the city. So if you're looking for pharmaceutical needs, if you're looking for, maybe you need supplemental needs, health food needs, any of those kind of things, you don't even need to leave your couch. You can give a phone call to Myers Drugs, who deliver anywhere in the city. So give them a chance. They will be the people that you need to tackle all of those problems. They've got you covered. Ken, speaking of got you covered, how about the got you covered Johnson Group, Kenny and Renny OG's play of the game? What do you got?
Yes, sir. Gustav Nyquist was frustrated by the inability to beat the Iron today, but he saved a goal at the other end of the ice with a diving play while the Jets were on the power play. It was going to be a backdoor tap for Dylan Larkin, but there was Gustav Nyquist laying out to break up the pass, and that was one of the better defensive plays the Jets made this evening.
Nailed it. Saved the goal. It was 3-0 in that situation if it's not for Gustav Nyquist in that case. So, hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that is the Kenny and Renny OGs. The Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. And Kelsey Eliasson is pushing back here, saying not every team, a last place team, would plug youth into their lineup. We are in last place. I'm not contesting the idea that maybe what the Winnipeg Jets should do is go to youth. I'm contesting the ridiculous idea that it's as simple as plugging young legs into a lineup and they turn everything around. This is a recipe for just putting a whole bunch of young players in a lineup to run around, to make mistakes, to get pumped, to get beat badly over and over again, and potentially lose players. I'm not disagreeing with the idea of bringing players up, but right. To make it look as simple as just put in young players and you solve all your problems, that is just simplistic thinking that is not solving any kind of problems.
The Jets had a great forecheck last year, but it was a bunch of experienced players. They were just faster experienced.
We're good at doing it. Like even Rasmus Kapari was almost 25 years old. It took him that long to do that. Brandon Tanev has been doing it. He made the NHL by being that guy, doing that one thing really, really, really good. That he got drafted for that reason. Mason Appleton is that guy. He's doing it right now for them. Nikolai Ehlers' speed is able to take people. I mean, clearly he's got a different skill set than everything else. It's just not that simple. It's not that simple as young legs equal. I've just heard it too much. I've heard too much of people saying, put in the young guys, it'll solve all the problems. We're slow. Put in the young guys, they're fast. There's different ways to play fast. Foot speed is just one part of what it takes to do that. Yes, it's a problem if you don't have it, and that's been a problem for the Winnipeg Jets, and I've been pointing that out since roughly around game 10 or 15, but It is not as simple as just plugging in young, fast legs and thinking that you're going to solve all your problems. The hashtag keg save of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, there were a bunch, but I think that the save on Dylan DeMello from the slot kind of late in the game was one of John Gibson's better saves. It's sort of the one that I had earmarked here as the keg save of the game.
That's good enough for me.
Just came down the pipe there.
I got distracted here. Sean forgot the headband. Sean's headband is at Sean's home. So
Happy New Year to Sean's headband.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully it's enjoying itself. As we hope you are all going to enjoy it yourself. We know that one person is going to be enjoying themselves right away here because they ignored what we thought was the hashtag keg save of the game last game and gave us their own. That's what you need to do. Share with us your hashtag the keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate, usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And our winner from our last show is an ingrate right here. Perfect timing. T. Will says, thanks for nothing, Renny, as I'm just about to hand out the hashtag keg save the game.
Oh
to
boy, are
T.
you
Will,
pulling it
offered
back?
last
Are you
time.
pulling it
You know
back?
what? I'm not going to pull it back. I may just
okay.
say that I handed it out and hold on to it and use it myself and send him a picture of me eating steak for being an ingrate. But I would never do that, even to T. Will, who probably deserves it, because T. Will is the winner of the hashtag the keg save of the game. You know what to do, T. Will. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 Fine Keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. Ken, anything to say? I'm going to give you one last chance to make an impact on the audience in 2025. Let's see what you got.
Well, 6-4 Canada at the World Junior, so 3 minutes left against Finland. So it'll be interesting to see how things transpire. Tournament gets interesting once the playoffs begin. Other than that, thanks to all. It was 2025 was an outstanding year. Yours truly turned 50. We had a lot. We saw a lot. We covered a lot of games. We were in a lot of rinks, had a lot of laughs, had some great meals, played some golf. You know, enjoyed company of many of our friends. We've had a great year.
President's Trophy winning team. You know what I mean?
We saw one of the greatest Game 7 comebacks in the history of sports.
Yeah. Yes.
Firsthand, live. Stories were written. We've had in a calendar year, we had over 100 podcasts. The community continues to grow. It's great that people are spending, over 200 people at one point were watching live on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool stuff. And just very grateful for a lot of things, including your friendship and your, partnership here.
Well,
and thanks for having me again on New Year's Eve.
Yeah. You're open.
I think this could be the happy. They could become the new happy birthday of 2026.
Yes, there you go.
Thanks for having me.
Great having you. Ken, I feel the same way. Our audience, I'm so appreciative of. It's always fun to spend time with them, and I love the idea that we're going into the new year, just kind of crank it along with like one of the things that we noticed last year, and I joked about the sucky boo-boos last year. What we found was when the Jets were just so unbelievably red hot, sometimes people didn't show up when they lost, and I hadn't overly worried about it, but they're in the back of your mind, you're wondering when the Jets start being a team that loses a little bit more games, if that was going to resonate. But what we find here is people want to be there to celebrate the wins, but they also want to be there to figure out the losses. I think we've done a pretty darn good job this year, Ken, so far of breaking down what has gone wrong with the Winnipeg Jets. And we're going to continue doing that in the new year. And we sure hope you're going to join us.
What a big whiff here. I went to 6 Blue Jays playoff games. Yes. I'm in Toronto, and I forgot to mention I went to the World Series, which was absolutely sensational.
Yeah, Sorry. Okay. It's okay. Yeah, thanks.
The show meant more to me, The show meant more to me.
T. Will says this is our group therapy. I sure agree with him. And sometimes I need group therapy after dealing with T. Will. So anyways, this has been a great show to end the year on, as tough as the circumstances have been for the Winnipeg Jets. We'll see where they go in the new year. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think we're starting to head into uncharted territories. Kenny and I will be there to take care of it right here in this space. And if you appreciate that happening in this space, we would implore you to appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent, Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, Myers Drugs, the Kenny and Renny OGs and the Johnston Group, and of course the fine folks at the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. We will see you all next year. See what I did there? Talk to you later, folks. Bye-bye.